I want to get into Parks because it is a life-changing moment for you.
Yeah.
What point in that, was it the pilot, the first season, hearing how people reacted? Like, when did you know that was like it?
We didn't. We didn't for a long. Certainly, I didn't, because I wasn't even hired as a series regular. I wasn't even hired. There wasn't even a role for me. Kind of.
Well, you auditioned.
I auditioned for Ron Swanson,
Yeah.
the part that Nick Offerman brilliantly, literally capital letters on brilliantly, played Ron Swanson. And ultimately, and you find out in this book, because I interviewed all the show creators and everything.
Yeah.
They loved him from day one. It was always pretty
Sure.
much his job, as it should have been. I mean, I can't even imagine. But I did something in that room that they enjoyed, and my agents called me a couple weeks later and said, listen, you know that, because at the time when I was involved at the beginning, it was called the Untitled Amy Poehler Project. It wasn't called Parks and Recreation.
Right.
So she goes, you know that show you auditioned for? I said, yeah. She goes, they want you to come in and read for a character named Jerry. Okay, why wouldn't I? And I get to the audition. And, like I mentioned many times, I'm a big guy. I generally know who I'm going to be auditioning against, especially things are different now with self-tapes and everything. But in those days, if you were well-known in the guest spot community or in, the casting directors knew you. They
Sure.
knew you did good work, and they could, because casting directors, they bring you in, they want to look good. They don't want to bring in some shitty actor who really can't do it.
Yeah.
Because then they look foolish in front of these producers who are paying them money to bring them in good talent. So normally I show up and I know a lot of the same guys. This time I didn't know anybody. It was everybody. Tall, short, fat, skinny, black, white, Indian. Like, it was all over the place. I'm like, oh, damn, they don't know what they want. Which, kind of good, kind of bad.
Yeah.
But
sure.
anyway, I went into the audition, and I had already met them at the Ron's, when I auditioned for Ron Swanson, so I knew them, and we were chatting a little. And I was telling Greg Daniels, one of the co-creators of the show, he had created The Office, the American version, and I knew Carell in Chicago, and the last voice job I did in Chicago was with Steve. So it's always nice to have a little something to chat about, like someone we mutually know and love. I mean, Steve's a great guy.
Sure.
And anyway, so it's just so funny because now I just found this all out in making this book happen. They knew that day I was their guy. I didn't know that. I'm still waiting to hear. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, so they hire me, but only as not a series regular. We'll see what's going to happen. And then my agents at the time were, and I don't blame them at all. As a matter of fact, they were trying to have my back. They said, Jim, we don't know what this is. And this sounds a little bit like background work. Because they were telling them he's going to be sitting at a desk. We don't know what this is. Everyone was being very upfront. We have these 6 main characters. That's our show. But we do have to fill out the office, but we don't know what that means. And my agents were like, you have a resume. You are not doing background work.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with background work, but at some point you don't do it any longer.
Yep.
And I'd been doing major guest spots at this point. Major guest spots, some films and all this stuff. But for me, Brandon, there was not a second of hesitation because I said to them, thank you, I get where you're coming from. But look what happened to those background people on The Office, Kevin and Phyllis and Stanley and Oscar.
I had Kate Flannery on the show. She was one of my first guests.
Meredith.
Yeah.
My God, Kate is one of my girls. I love Kate. We were just almost did a gig together recently. It didn't happen. But I love Kate. And was her boyfriend here with her?
No, we did.
Chris is the greatest.
Yeah,
just
I didn't get to meet him, but they met on the set, too.
Yes, and he was our photographer, too, for
that's
Parks.
incredible.
He was the photographer on The Office for NBC. That's how they met. And then he came to Parks, and he was our photographer.
So you saw the success of The Office cast
and I'm like,
as a blueprint.
Right. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But my God, if what happened to them were to happen to me, how could I not take that gamble? And it did. It fully happened to me. And so anyway, I started. But Retta, who plays Donna on the show, we were in the same boat, and we became lifelong buddies almost day one. Just because I think neither one of us knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Like, we have these major actors here. They're the regular ones. Even Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt was not hired to be a series regular. He was hired for 6 episodes. That was it.
Wow.
He told me new stuff in the book that I never knew, which is just amazing. it turns out Mike Schur, who also co-created it with Greg, was like, how is this guy not already on a series? We got to keep him. So they did. And that's what they did with me and Retta. So then we became series regulars. But every year we battled ratings and if we're going to be canceled and everything. But I kind of, in season, I'm going to say 3, I could be 4, we were getting crazy press. Like, I think it was Time Magazine called us one of the shows of the century. I'm like, what? Like, wow, that's kind of crazy stuff. And that's when I think it sunk in. This is good. This is going to be good. And the amazing thing is shows come and go. I've been on look me up on IMDb. I've been on 1,000 of them. They come and go. You never hear from them again. That is what happens. But Parks, we are still out there. We're on different channels during the day. We're on Peacock. You can still see us. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It just has been amazing. And the best part of it is the cast. Because people go, you guys look like you really enjoyed each other. We still have this text chain called the Parks Family Text. I could pull out my phone right now. Just last week, it was all about, well, I can't actually tell you what it was all about, but it was funny, and somebody saw somebody at something. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. And
now I want you to pull out your phone.
I'll show you when we're off.
Okay.
But anyway, we're still tight. This is still a tight-knit group because the love that people see is what was happening backstage. Amy always said it was lightning in a bottle. Because, again, you go on shows, you're meeting people for the first time mostly. You don't know them. Like in our case, Amy and Rashida knew each other, so that was great.
Sure.
Because they were going to be big buddies on the show. Nick knew Amy, but they weren't, like, tight or anything.
Yeah.
Aziz was the newbie. No, Aubrey, she was a page at NBC when
she got
Amy was on SNL.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, this is all craziness. But it just gelled.
Yeah.
It just came together. And then when Adam Scott and Rob Lowe came in, it was just the icing. It was the icing on the cake. And we did 7 seasons. And it's, there was fear by me and others. Are you worried after this you won't be able to do anything else because you'll be Jerry? You're just Jerry the rest of your life.
Or Gary or Larry.
Or Gary or Larry or Terry, whatever they want to call me. And I said, if it happens, there's worse things in the world. It paid my bills and kind of set me up. I'm okay. If no one else wants to hire me again, which would have sucked, but thankfully it didn't happen by any stretch. I work thankfully all the time, and I've done dramatic roles. Though, I mean, this business you're always fighting. I'm still the fat funny guy in their minds, which is okay. Again, I enjoy doing comedy. It's probably my favorite, but I do love getting my teeth into a big dramatic role. I have a film coming up that I was telling you we're going to shoot in Barcelona. There's not a funny thing in it. I love that challenge.
Yep.
So it's been a blessing.
Is there a moment or a memory that you can point of like, that's the moment? I'll give you Kate's. When she talks about how, was it Phyllis dressed up as Santa when Michael was the original Santa?
Yeah.
She told me that was the funniest fucking scene they've ever done. It took them a million takes. They would have to cut different things. Like, that's the one singular. It's so hard to pick a favorite memory, but she remembers that's when they broke the most. Is there a favorite memory or some moment that
as Chris Traeger, for those fans of the show would know, literally, he says that all the time, I literally have 1,000. But some, if I had to, my favorite scenes were whenever we were in the conference room together, because it was all of us.
Yeah.
And when those cameras were off, it was just bullshit and laughing and joking, telling stories. And I love that. And that's when I was like, when that was first starting happening, I thought, I'm really a part of this. Mm-hmm. And also in season 2, Morgan Sackett was our line producer. As people are probably sick of me saying, the greatest line producer who's ever walked the planet. And I have other friends who are line producers. They're wonderful. But Morgan's, and now he's not even a line producer. He's an exec producer on also Hacks and all sorts of stuff. And he eventually became an exec producer on Parks. But he's brilliant at what he does. Line producer, for those who don't know, they're handling the money. They're handling everything. They're handling to make sure it all comes together and sets and locations. It's a big job.
Yeah.
And he was the best at it. And one day we were shooting an episode, I forget which one it was, but we were on location, and he came up to me and he goes, I just wanted to let you know, they're writing you a story. I go, my own? He goes, well, yeah, you'll be the A story. Because there's ABC generally, sometimes AB. And I wasn't even a series regular then. There had been talk, but I was not signed on the dotted line. But in my head, they're not giving a guy who's going to be out of here next week
Right.
an A story. They're just not doing it. So I can picture standing here, him telling me. And as a typical actor, I went from euphoria to yes to oh shit, the A story, oh shit, that's so much pressure.
I gotta
oh
ace
my
this.
god,
It's
I got
the biggest moment of my life.
If I don't pull this off, I'm fucked. You know what I mean? Like, but that's any actor. Well, I shouldn't say any, but that's most actors everywhere.
Yeah.
We go from the high of the booking,
The moment,
to the low of the panic. Can I pull it off?
Shit. Yeah.
That is. I tell a story in the book. I won't tell it now because it's too detailed. But I did a Soderbergh film that I had so convinced myself a mistake had been made in my hiring because, again, insecure actors. That how could Soderbergh want me in his film? Because we're idiots. We're idiots and we're insecure. And I just love every damn day of it. I don't know. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Well, you can tell the joy off your face when talking about Parks or talking about your career. I have to say, my favorite TV behind-the-scenes moment.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Chris Pratt with Kim Kardashian of the comeback story has to be the greatest ad-lib in TV history.
And here's what I'll say. Yes, to all of that. But I'll also say that went on every day, all day.
Yeah.
If you're in a scene with Pratt and Offerman, and Adam is so damn funny. Aziz, of course, and Rob. Whenever the guys, because, we're filthier than the girls. We just are. Not proud of it, but it is what it is. That kind of shit went on all day. But that day, because people will show it to me all the time. I lived it. I was there. Yeah. And
your belly laugh is iconic.
Well, because
on that.
It's that moment of pause of, what did I just hear? Like, that's what Nick and I take a moment. Like,
yeah,
huh? And then, of course, craziness. But my favorite is then they cut to Amy and Rashida, who are like, these stupid boys. These stupid boys. I just hate them.
Seabiscuit.
They're like, oh, and they go, well, Kardashians, well, not really, because, I heard you got to come on her back. That, I don't know. And then Retta, the tag, well, that's going to make the rap party.
Oh.
Yeah, and it did. Oh, believe me, it did.